pleased to be joined by Sally Gaskin, a developer here in Austin. You've been developing for quite a while, right? You want to tell us a little bit about your development history?
Sure, sure. I actually started in the affordable housing business in 1996 in Houston with some partners there, and have actually developed somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,100, 1,200 units throughout mostly Houston, some in the Hill Country, and then I did the City View apartments in Austin, 70-unit senior development. That was a 2005 allocation and 2008 placed in service. So I've been, excuse me, in the affordable housing industry for quite a while. Left for a while and then came back as a consultant, and really never expected, didn't really have plans for doing additional developments until this opportunity came up, as well as the opportunity with the RAS, which is an out parcel of the City View tract over in South Austin. So I've been doing this a while, and I think there's nothing more rewarding than affordable housing.
So your first development was in the mid '90s, 1996. You really cut your teeth in the tax credit program, tax credit development. I believe a lot of people are sort of familiar with what those properties look like, who lives there, things like that. But supportive housing had to be something completely different. So what compelled you to get into this space?
You know, supportive housing is incredibly different. And I've always admired Joy Horrock Brown in Houston with New Hope Housing. And she's been a good friend. She and I started in the business both in '96. But when I came back to Austin in late 2018, 2019, I started working with OSDA and Sagebrook, Lisa Stevens and Megan Lash, really as a consultant. And the city of Austin was revamping their affordable housing program, and Patrick Russell was leading that charge and kind of rewriting their whole partnership program. And so anyway, I started working with Patrick on some of the aspects of how they were going to rewrite the partnership program, and really spent quite a bit of time with him. And through that relationship, um, the city was just starting, and I shouldn't say just starting, it was just starting for me, but getting really serious about permanent supportive housing and the overwhelming need for permanent supportive housing units in Austin, and expanding kind of the bench in terms of getting more developed. There are a few developers at that time that were developing units, but not on the scale I think that they were trying to achieve with some of the resolutions and mission driven um, efforts that the city had adopted. So anyway, it was one of those things that in those conversations with Patrick and with Austin Housing Finance Corporation, that it was really clear that that was a direction that the city wanted to go in. They were kind of reaching out to the developers that they had supported um, with traditional affordable housing, RHDA loans. And the opportunity for this site to go to be submitted in '22 as a PSH development kind of popped up in late in December, before the pre-app was due in January. And we thought, perfect opportunity. It's on the west side of 35. It's in an infill neighborhood that has, the Hancock Center 2 blocks away, had a community care walk-in clinic there, lots of opportunities for jobs. The HEB, the Fiesta across the street, and then St. David's, just a couple of blocks south. I mean, it was just such an opportunity-rich location. It has lots of transportation, public transportation options for residents. So we looked at it and thought, wow, what an opportunity, and reached out to the housing authority because we had actually submitted an application on this site in 21 that was a family development, but pulled it because the housing authority, I think it's Rosewood. I always get Rosewood and Rosemont.
Rosewood Courts.
Yeah,
Yep.
Rosewood Courts. The housing authority had submitted an application for Rosewood that same year, and it was kind of going to be between us and Rosewood as to whether or not they would get the credit. So we pulled our application in 21 for the family transaction, and really thought the site was gone. And then it came back in December. It had gone under contract and then fallen out. And late 21, it just in advance of the 22 application, the site came back on the market. And that's when we decided this would be, a great opportunity for PSH.
So you got the awards in the 22 round?
Yes.
And then began construction
in 23. So we began construction in mid to late September of 23.
And fast forward to spring of 2025, and you now have a beautiful community that's open to 100 new residents. So tell us a little bit about this community that we are sitting in, Katie Lofts. It's gorgeous, by the way, including all of these spaces that we've had the great pleasure of touring with you. Maybe tell us about who this community is intended to serve, and then some of the features that you like most about the community.
First of all, the community is intended to serve 100 single-person households, and these are residents that are formerly chronically homeless, meaning they've been unhoused for a year or more, with one or more disabilities. And all of our residents come to us through the coordinated entry system. So we get referrals from the coordinated entry system and then take a prospective resident through all of the qualifications and eligibility criteria for the tax credit program and for the housing authority project-based voucher programs. So, that's our clientele. Many of our unhoused neighbors. And while formerly chronically homeless, the definition is a year or more unhoused. Many of our residents have been unhoused for multiple years. And one of our speakers at the grand opening, Sharon Simmons, she moved in on the first day that we had units available for occupancy. She had been unhoused for 12 years. And it was just such a moving little presentation that she gave, going through all of the things that she did to get to Katie Lofts. And what was really particularly exciting and heartwarming, I think, for the city and for all of us in this industry serving this population, is that she went through all of the agencies that moved her along in the process, which was a real validation of the organizations that the city is supporting and that are supporting our unhoused neighbors in trying to get to permanent supportive housing. but there were like 4 different organizations that she had contact with that moved her through the system and showing that it really works. I mean, what the city is putting in place is just doing a great job. Um, we definitely need to um, make that system more robust, I think. I mean, enlarge it, expand it, but it's working, and the formula is working, which is, I think it was interesting. The mayor spoke after Sharon did, and um, and it was so great because he had no idea what she was going to say. I actually had no idea what she was going to say, but she just gave such um, an amazing um, 2-minute speech on, you know, getting to Katie Lofts. And it was such a perfect segue to the mayor's points, as well as the other speakers from the city, Mandy DeMayo with Austin Affordable Housing Corporation and the Housing Department, because again, it's showing that what the city is putting in place is working. It's a good formula.
Absolutely. I feel like sometimes in the development process, especially for developers of affordable housing, sometimes you can not necessarily lose sight of the mission, but you get detracted by the entitlement process, or making your pro forma pencil out, or dealing with pricing that you don't want to see, or any X number of sort of variables that are sticking points in the process. And it can be a very long process. You started first thinking about this 5 or 6 years ago. Fast forward to now, whenever the community has finally opened to the public, but seeing that resident move in must make you remember why you have that mission in the first place.
Yes, it definitely does. I mean, the you mentioned the process, and it is a really challenging process. The permanent supportive housing, particularly because it's still not it's still not a process that is extremely well known. We're seeing more nationwide, but it's not part of the cookie cutter, or the documents on the shelf that many of the investors and lenders have developed since the first tax credits were Tax Reform Act of '86. The first tax credits were issued in '89, I think. So we've had a really long run, and the industry is very sophisticated. It's just that the permanent supportive housing really is a twist. There's no permanent debt. You've got to have, project-based vouchers really to make a 100% permanent supportive housing development work. Your operating expenses were extraordinarily high. They're, gosh, I'm trying to remember, 4 to 5 times higher than a traditional, and that may be underestimating. 4 to 5 times higher than traditional affordable housing, because we have 24/7 staffing, and more, just more employees and services. We're fortunate that our services at Katie Lofts are being funded by a HUD special NOFO that Family Endeavors, was able to apply for and be awarded through our local COC, ECHO. By the way, they've been amazing. Both ECHO and Endeavors have been great partners in Katie Lofts. But there are many more hurdles, and also challenges with just the financing pieces. I think we have 10 different financing pieces in our capital stack, including project-based vouchers from HACA, the Housing Authority City of Austin, which of course is our partner here, and also through the city's program for project-based vouchers.
Yes, permanent supportive housing happens to be one of the most well, it's costly in order to build it and more importantly to operate it. But it's also the most desperately needed type of housing. Sort of the challenges that you identified along the way and that you probably already knew going into this. That's the exact reason why we started our Texas Supportive Housing Institute. Whether you are someone who just has identified the need for that housing in your community and you want to help figure out what you can do to build it, or whether you are a service provider realizing that we need more housing for where I'm delivering services, or whether you are an established career tax credit developer who has 1,100 units under her belt, everybody's kind of coming into our institute with not a whole lot of functional knowledge around this permanent supportive housing specifically. So maybe tell us about some of the lessons you learned along the way, whether they were by going through our institute or peer learning from New Hope Housing, or just lessons that really you took to heart through this process.
I will say that the institute was phenomenal, and in maybe in ways that y'all really hadn't considered. The information took us through in a very methodical process, and which was good. Having been a developer, a lot of the development piece was not new to me, but some of the trauma informed design, some of the and policies and procedures that you really need to consider, tenant selection plans, things like that. And where it was so, I thought, so beneficial to the Katie Loft's team, and that was myself and Tamara Foster with New Hope Housing and Annie Erickson with Family Endeavors, our service provider. We were able to go through as a team very methodically and kind of go through, get on the same page with, our thoughts about a lot of those different pieces of permanent supportive housing that are so critical. And the other thing that was really helpful to me, because I was not in the nonprofit kind of service delivery sphere in Austin, because with traditional family and senior housing, we just didn't cross paths with some of the organizations that are doing such phenomenal work in Austin and working with challenging populations. It was an opportunity because there were teams from various service providers and developers in the Institute for us to get to know each other. And really from that, I feel like for me, it was a network that I was able to, really be able to plug into that has had tremendous benefits, and I think will have tremendous benefits in the future. Because working together, we learn from one another, as well as, we can, we just share so many experiences. And just like with the city now, really talking about trying to fill gaps on service funding with a lot of the federal funding going away. We've been working as a team to try to, it's not streamlined, but come together with a consistent way of kind of demonstrating what our budget is for services, because we all have different, started from different places, and have our service dollars designated to different buckets and funding sources and different things. So it's been a really great opportunity to, number one, like I say, get to know the other service providers, but through the Austin Housing Coalition, Affordable Housing Coalition, as well as other organizations, we're now seeing each other more and really being able to come together as a group and provide the city with some, I hope, some really valuable information about how our services, how much they cost, what they include, and where our gaps are. Because the service piece, as difficult as the development piece was and the capital stack and getting it actually built, these properties, the service piece is the really, truly critical part um, for really changing and impacting lives.
Sure. I mean, building it, there's the initial capital outlay for the sticks and bricks and all of that. But with the ongoing operation, I mean, you have to make sure that there's evergreen funding available for that. But, with the network of mission aligned housing and service providers, I'm sure the collective feeling is we're all in this together. We're not going to be trying to fight against each other for funding. We should all figure out a way to make sure everybody's fully funded. So that's refreshing.
Critical. I do think that that's. I really believe that that's where we're all coming from, because we all are, number one, our residents are going to be, we're already seeing transfers between different PSH properties, because some properties are better located for a particular resident, where they're, their kind of neighborhood that they're comfortable in. And in some cases, it's a higher level of care that they may need. So, we're all really, I think, working very well together and supporting one another.
Yeah.
I think all boats are lifted.
You bring up a good point, because I've increasingly been working in the supportive housing space, and I have friends that know that, and they'll say, well, what's the most effective housing intervention for someone exiting homelessness? And I'll say all of them, right? We need the Katie Lofts. We need the Community First. We need the Seabrook Squares. We need a spectrum of housing interventions, because sometimes we just assume that a resident coming off the street should just be grateful for having any sort of house. Well, they may not be set up for success if you're pitting them in the wrong type of community. Right. And I want to get to that, because what I love most about this property is sort of the intentionality in a lot of the spaces that you've created that will create that resident community, but also set them up for success, resident success, which this housing is permanent, where it's intended for people to stay for as long as they want. What are some of the features that you love most about Katie Lofts that really that you feel empower the residents?
I think, gosh, there's so many, but what we tried to do with Katie Lofts was really try to look at the spectrum of a holistic approach. I mean, we've got the community space for, relaxing, and for residents to mix and to get to know each other, create a culture of community, with like this space and the courtyard space, which I think are just very inviting. We also have a library for, residents that can, for whatever their interests are, we can help to support that with with different reading materials. It's also an opportunity for residents to, one of our residents that moved in was, her son's birthday was coming up, and she was so happy being here and so excited, as she wanted to know if she could have her son's birthday party here.
Oh, wow.
which was really pretty amazing. And so I think our library area can double, because it's connected to this community space and has a table for, I think, 6 people in there, for for small little gatherings like that are family oriented or friends that are outside of Katie Lofts. So, and then we've got the job training where we've tried to make that it's a large space, but we've tried to make it where it's kind of multi-purpose. The desks can be arranged in many different ways or pushed up against the wall, and use that for all kinds of different things. We could have dance classes in there. So just depending on what residents are interested in. And then on the 5th floor, we've got the what we're calling the wellness center. It's got 2 treadmills, 2 stationary bicycles for more cardio kinds of things, as well as we will be able to offer some maybe yoga classes. We've got a television in there that we can have some low impact exercise, as well as we're hoping that we've got maybe a visiting physician's assistant or nurse practitioner through the healthcare collaborative that ECHO has been really kind of, I think, leading or participating in trying to move it forward. I know that there are multiple medical groups that are participating in that. I think Dell Medical, St. David's Foundation, Community Care, and so it's a whole collaboration that, like I say, I mean, we're really excited that there's maybe the opportunity for us to have a visiting medical person here for referrals and just basic health care. But if a resident needs some higher level of care, they can refer them out to different services, help them with telehealth if that's a good option for whatever the issue is. So we're it's hard to pick one.
Yeah. So the way you've described your career and also this development, 1996 to whatever year you were developer, more than 1,000 units. Then you got into the consulting business. Then you got drawn back into this work to help solve a community issue. It sort of feels like a legacy project, the culmination of your development experience. But I have to ask, are you going to build another Katie Lofts, or would you do this again?
Well, I am doing it again.
Oh, with the Ross.
With the Ross.
Right. Okay.
So the Ross,
Tell us about the Ross.
The Ross is under construction right now. It really is very much a duplicate of Katie Lofts. It's 100 units. It's the same studio design with a few little tweaks to it, but same size units. Basically the same size, community space, same community spaces, job training, wellness, case management.
Same design team, I assume.
Same design team,
yeah.
Yes. Different site, so it lays out a little differently. We're real excited about the design. My SGI's partner in that transaction is Austin Housing Finance Corporation, which we're really excited about. We've already gotten the project-based vouchers through HACA and the city, so we're all set there. And Family Endeavors is going to be. They will also be our service provider. They're actually an administrative member in that transaction as well in the ownership structure. So it's very exciting, and I think too. I'm glad that that I've got 2. We'll be able to share some, hopefully, management and maintenance. BOA is scheduled to be our property management provider as well. So I think that the economies of scale will be will be very positive. Beyond the bras, I'm not sure. There's a
That's
lot.
fair.
There's a lot here to digest.
Right. Yeah. Well, look, we appreciate your time sitting down with us, talking about this just incredible community. And as an Austin resident, on behalf of Austin, we're grateful that you're helping us address one of our community's most pressing needs by lending your rich expertise to it. So just thanks for the tremendous work, Sally, and congrats on such a gorgeous community.
Well, thank you, and I cannot tell you how grateful I am to T-Shack for um, the what y'all have done. The loan you came through at the 11th hour on an issue, a financing piece that we were really scrambling to try to figure out. And man, you guys came through in just so fast and with a solution that really allowed us to close on Katie. Without that piece, we would have had to kind of go back to the drawing board. So the 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 support and the ability to move very quickly, um, was really a tremendous benefit to Katie, and I cannot tell you how grateful I am and what a resource and just incredible gift T-Shack is to all of affordable housing, but I think PSH in particular.
We appreciate that, Sally. Thank you.